saying how excited we are that you're heading down under for Oz Comic Con. So tell us a little bit about how you feel being part of one of the biggest pop culture events that Australia has every year.
I'm super honored. I love coming down when I can. It's been a few times. I think for Melbourne, it's probably been over 10 years. So I'm very much looking forward to coming back. I love it there, and I can't wait to see everyone.
What has it been like for you over the past couple of years without big events like this? Like Melbourne was ended up being one of the most locked down cities in the world. I think in a total we were locked down for 300 days over 2 years. What was that like for you not being able to have events like this to go to during that time?
I certainly missed them. I tried to participate in some virtual ones as best as I could. Um, I still ended up working and being busy quite a bit with recording, home recording, directing, that sort of thing. So I would, make some time for virtual events as I could, and I appreciated all of those that, would have me as a participant and a guest, and everyone that I met via online, and that way, I'm glad that there was something we could all collectively do in some capacity. It does not take the place of in person, eye to eye, face to face sort of situations, but it at least allows us to have some semblance of that while we're all waiting to go through these very difficult circumstances.
Definitely. What was that like for you directing and recording from home as well? That must have been a big shock to your system.
It's a bit challenging. I tend to do well with communication, as the same as what I just described before. I do well face to face, eye to eye, that sort of thing. Even in studio situations, the actor, the engineer, everyone, we can all still see each other, and so I can, be expressive, use my hands when I talk, use facial expressions, things of that nature, and all of that had to be dialed back to just vocal direction and specifics with that way. Thankfully I have, multiple years experience with voice acting and communicating that way. So I just had to make the mental adjustment to remind myself that that is 100% what we're doing rather than a certain other percentage of what I'm doing.
Definitely. And how do you get that perfect environment at home as well? Did you already have a studio at home? Because I know even for myself, I had to build a studio at home for my radio show because you have kids in the background, my cat in the background occasionally. How did you make that so soundproof at home that you could do a professional job from home?
I had some equipment. I didn't have quite enough equipment, so I invested in a bit more things to help with greatly reducing the sound reflection. I already had a nice microphone. I had some nice gear. So it was just a matter of treating the space around me more than it was like the microphones or my internet connection or any of those sorts of things itself. I just had not prepped my home and my home studio area to be of immediate use because I so frequently am, at a recording studio, either directing or recording, acting in some capacity, that if I need to, record a quick audition or do something like that, I have enough people around me that I can work with that can help me out with that to get it done without me having to have used all of my home gear.
Yeah, yeah. So, Mike, bringing it back to your career, you have had an absolutely amazing career and you have been part of some of the most important and most popular animes of our generation. What has that been like for you being part of such a world that is loved by its fans, but being part of some of those films and series that are just fan favorites? That must have been something that's been so exciting for you over the years.
Yeah, it's very exciting and continues to be so. I think back when I first started doing things in the late 90s, I thought it was just a really, unique, interesting, fascinating, and, emotionally rewarding type of work to work on dubbing dialogue for animation that was made in another country, another culture, another everything, to present to a different audience, an additional audience in case they wanted to hear it in, another language, to help the story be heard and told by, sorry, sorry, I got a little off track there. To help the story be understood and heard by different cultures and people and languages around the world. I think it's really cool. I was not exactly sure where all things like that would go, as far as like it having some sort of impact on the Western storytelling and the Western world and people being into it and all that sorts of things. I just thought it was a fun line of work. It was acting work that I really enjoyed doing. Growing up, I had seen things like Speed Racer and Battle of the Planets, and I had gone to the art house movie theater to see like Vampire Hunter D and Akira and things like that. But even, during times like that, those were very like, you had to be a big fan of such things to seek those things out. Not necessarily the televised things like Battle of the Planets and those sorts of things, but especially the movie theater type stuff. It was all art house, all limited audience, that kind of thing. So it's neat to see just in general that type of media and that type of storytelling grow over the years.
For our listeners that don't know about the work that you've done over the years and your career, how did you get that first role of working as a voice actor on an anime?
As far as work on an anime, I wish there was a big, long, interesting story, but it was an audition. I've been working as an actor in one capacity or another since elementary school. I'd been working for a few years professionally, doing commercial work, film work, both on camera and behind a microphone. I'd worked in theater. I'd worked in film. I'd worked in a few other things, and I had this audition come up with, at the time, that was Funimation. It was the first thing anime-wise that I ever auditioned for. And just fun challenge is the way I looked at it. I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't know this was something that I could do in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And, immediately recognized, like, it is a dubbing situation. This is like Speed Race or Battle of the Planets, something of that nature, of things that I'd seen when I was a little kid. And it was an opportunity to do that kind of work. And so I thought it was fun and exciting. But, yeah, as far as, like, big, long, crazy, interesting, like right place, right time type stories, I was to get the audition. But it really was like, here's an opportunity to audition. I think I auditioned with a few hundred local people at the time, and I was one of a handful, maybe like a dozen to 15, that got selected to work on their first project.
Okay. And you mentioned before about the different cultures and things around the anime world. When I was growing up here in Australia, if I wanted to go and watch an anime film, I used to have to go to an art house theatre or to the Asian cinema theatre right in the city. These days, my nieces and nephews can go and see the new Dragon Ball film or the new My Hero Academia film at any multiplex in Australia now. How have you seen that industry grow over the years in countries like Australia and the US, where now anime is as popular as any other form of cinema?
It's really neat to see it. I've been involved with different franchises, different series that along the way, fortunately, I've had like cool theatrical runs, things in a movie theater, and I recall it being early days of theatrical runs of places that would allow for a digital presentation, multiple languages on multiple nights, or even like one night it's this language, one night it's another language, and that's the entirety of the run, and it might be like on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, or a Monday and a Tuesday, something like that, to grow to where it's like in hundreds, if not thousands of theaters around the country, and even more than that around the world, with multiple nights, multiple screenings. In some instances, being like the top viewing or top, attended movie for that particular day or for that particular weekend, or it's neat to see it hit the normal, the overall top 10, top 5 type movies, rather than like here in this niche column. It got seen by this many people over here. It's as you say, they get to see things like My Hero Academia or Dragon Ball in like the movie house in the same place where they would see Marvel movies or the latest Star Wars film or Star Trek or something like that.
Yeah, well, I think the last My Hero Academia film here in Australia is currently the highest grossing animated film of this year, which I think surprised a lot of the old-time movie critics and movie journalists. But it was so popular that Village Cinemas ended up extending its run from 1 week to 2 weeks, and it's currently the highest grossing animated film of this year.
That's very cool to hear.
Yeah, so with you being part of so many popular franchises and series, when you come to something like Oz Comic Con, is there one in particular that the most fans want to chat to you about, or do they end up just chatting to you about all of the series that you've worked on?
I think there's probably like a more popular half dozen or so, but I'm always very pleasantly surprised to see lots of fans want to talk about a lot of different things. And, sometimes it's something that a lot of people have seen, like a Dragon Ball or a My Hero Academia or an Attack on Titan or something like that. And sometimes it's something that fewer people have seen, or that I didn't know had as many people have seen it, like, Mushishi or Galaxy Railways or Blood Blockade Battlefront, or a whole bunch of other things that, are fan favorites that didn't necessarily get like the primetime, American television treatment, or that sort of thing, where it just feels like you're not sure how many people have seen it, or how it's being perceived and received.
Definitely. Now, Mike, you've also transitioned into directing as well. Tell us a little bit about what made you make that decision about moving into directing as well as voice acting, and how have you enjoyed that challenge in your career as well?
Initially, I was asked to do it. I'll preface this by saying I'd studied directing in college. I've directed short plays. I've helped with short films. I've helped with lots of projects. There was a point in time when it seemed like, I believe, Christopher Sabat and Justin Cook were the two main folks directing for Funimation. And I was approached by the producers, because they knew that I had some sort of background in studying it and doing it practically. They approached me to ask if I had any interest in being a substitute, an assistant, helping either one of them out when, they would go on a family vacation, or go to an appearance at a convention, or help out in the evenings. Like if they worked their normal shift during the day and we were working with actors that had limited availability and could only come in at nighttime, would I be interested in coming in and helping out with those capacities? And I said yes, because I loved getting to go in and record, and I thought the whole process was interesting, and I was fascinated by it. And so to ask to take on a different responsibility with it and learn even more about it, I was honored to be asked, and I wanted to pursue it and see how that would go. And they liked my work, and that led into me having more of it, and eventually started being the ADR voice director on shows of my own, and that has just grown from there.
Awesome.
As far as it being like an interesting challenge, I like the entire aspect of the production side of this industry, so I try to involve myself with it as much as I can, because I'm interested in so many facets of it, and I find it fascinating. So I love the acting, I love the directing, and I love the adaptive script writing. There's many more aspects of it beyond that, but those are the ones that I'm the most familiar with.
Awesome. Mike, I asked before whether your fans had a favorite franchise that you'd worked on. Have you got a favorite character that you've been able to voice over the years? And if so, what makes that character your favorite?
I don't necessarily have a favorite character. Um, I don't want to give the very expected by the book answer of an actor of like, I love all of my characters and they're all my children and I love them equally. I don't necessarily think that's the case. There's some characters that I've gotten to spend a lot more time with and know better and feel like they're, closer to being members of my family and things like that, rather than like 1 and 2 line people on some show that's, all I ever got to do was like scream out like, they went that way after them. And then I never got to get to know that character any more than that.
Yep.
I am appreciative of those opportunities and circumstances, but I don't necessarily, quote unquote, love them equally as much as like, say, Master Roshi or Buggy or Jean Kirstein, or these characters that I've gotten to grow with and voice and become over like multiple years, multiple seasons, and multiple projects.
Awesome. Well, Mike, I know we are running out of time very, very quickly, and I could talk to you about those characters all day. But to finish up, what would you like to say to people out there who are heading along to Oz Comic Con next week?
I look so very forward to seeing you all. It's been a few years, and I know that during those at least a couple of those few years, it wasn't the easiest time for anyone. So I'm glad things are opening back up, and we have these opportunities to meet and enjoy fandoms together. And I look forward to seeing all of you there.